The car looks unstable, sliding, fighting for grip, yet Max Verstappen keeps accelerating. The crowd sees a car in distress. The data sees something else entirely. Because at the highest level of Formula One, speed doesn't come from perfect grip. It comes from living in the zone where the tire is neither fully planted nor fully sliding. And that is where Verstappen is not just fast. He is in a different operating system. Most fans watch a Formula One car drift through a corner and assume the driver has made a mistake. That instability means lost time, they think. Something has gone wrong, but the reality is far more complicated and far more fascinating. Because a tire generates its maximum lateral force not when it is perfectly planted, but when it is operating at an optimal slip angle. For F1 tires, that sweet spot sits around 6 to 8 degrees. The tire isn't fully gripping, and it isn't fully sliding either. It exists in a narrow window where the sidewall deforms just enough to create rotation without losing traction. And that is the fundamental misunderstanding most fans have about grip. That is the reason Max Verstappen looks faster when the car looks worse. If you want to understand why Verstappen can look reckless and still win, hit the like button and subscribe to Daily Apex Up. Because the way he drives is not just a skill, it's a philosophy. Verstappen doesn't tolerate that window of optimal slip. He lives inside it. He prefers oversteer, and he has been openly clear about it throughout his career. His words are simple and brutal. Understeer is slow, he said. It does not matter if you like it or not, it is slow. And if you want a fast car, it needs to be on the nose. Verstappen's preference for oversteer isn't just a personal choice. It shapes how Red Bull builds the entire car. Pierre Wache, Red Bull's technical director, says, "Max wants a car that is extremely responsive, with a very sensitive front end. That sensitivity gives Red Bull more performance to find at the front of the car, because Max can handle it. But that setup creates a major problem for his teammates. The car that fits Verstappen is often described as undrivable for anyone else. Alex Albon called it eye-wateringly sharp, like turning mouse sensitivity to maximum. The numbers tell the story. Pierre Gasly was over half a second slower in qualifying, out-qualified 11-1. Alex Albon beat Verstappen only once in 26 races. Sergio Perez suffered a 23-1 qualifying deficit in 2024. Only Daniel Ricciardo ever outscored him in a full season, and that was back in 2016 and 2017, before Max fully developed his style. This ability didn't appear out of nowhere. It started long before Formula One, with Jos Verstappen and a karting program that bordered on extreme. Max first sat in a kart at 4.5, won his first race at 7, and by 15 had won 3 international karting championships in one season, a feat no one had ever done before. But the trophies matter less than the training methods, because the training methods explain everything. Helmut Marko, Red Bull's advisor, once described a training method that reveals Verstappen's entire philosophy. During winter karting camps in Italy, rain would arrive and every other driver would retreat to the cafeteria. Only one kart kept running laps: Max's kart. Marko said it simply: as long as his fingers weren't completely frozen, he kept driving. Jos Verstappen pushed him even further. On freezing Wednesday sessions, school ended at noon, and they'd arrive at the track in brutal cold. Jos would keep the van running so Max could warm up between stints, then send him back out for 10 laps anyway. When Max returned saying he couldn't feel his hands, Jos gave him 3 minutes before sending him out again. Max later admitted he could barely hold the steering wheel. That relentless training also explains his uncanny ability to diagnose car issues instantly. Bradley Sable, Red Bull's performance coach, revealed that Jos would secretly change something on the kart and give Max 2 laps to identify it. Today, Max still does the same thing in the Red Bull, immediately spotting even the smallest adjustments. Jos even added hidden weight to Max's kart, and Max didn't know. Richard Pex confirmed that Jos only showed satisfaction when Max matched others' lap times despite the handicap. Even when the team swapped engines with another driver, nothing changed. Max remained faster because he simply extracted more speed from corners and reached top speed earlier. The reason his style works comes down to the traction circle. Every tire has a limited amount of grip, and cornering and acceleration forces must stay within that limit. Most drivers prefer understeer, keeping the rear stable and relying on the front tires, safer but slower on corner entry. Verstappen takes the opposite approach. He uses trail braking to load the front tires and rotate the car earlier. The car points toward the exit sooner. He straightens the wheel earlier and applies throttle before rivals even reach that point. Peter Windsor described it as Verstappen creating a perfect platform for a trillionth of a second between direction changes. Jolyon Palmer called it manipulative driving, with soft, controlled inputs instead of reactive, jerky steering and pedal traces. Verstappen's wet weather dominance proved the theory. In Brazil 2016, he dropped to 16th in torrential rain and climbed 13 places in 14 laps to finish third, what many called the Verstappen show. Brazil 2024 was even more stunning. Starting 17th, he won by 19 seconds, gained 6 places on the opening lap, and set the fastest lap 17 times, a performance Jolyon Palmer called his best wet race yet. Imola 2021 was another clinic, winning by 22 seconds after a perfect launch. But Verstappen isn't invincible. When conditions and setup don't match his style, he can struggle. Silverstone 2025 exposed his low downforce choice, causing a spin that dropped him to 10th. He recovered to 5th, but called the race horrible. The ability is real, but it still depends on having a car that suits his style. If you want more deep dives into how champions like Verstappen redefine speed, subscribe to Daily Apex Up and turn on notifications. Because the next chapter of Formula One could change everything. The 2026 regulations change Formula One in ways that align directly with what Verstappen has trained for. The power split shifts from 80-20 to 50-50, and electric output jumps from 120 kilowatts to 350 kilowatts, bringing instant torque and new traction problems. Downforce drops 15 to 30%. Active aerodynamics replace DRS, and lighter, narrower cars alter handling across every track. Drivers who tested the new cars describe a troubling reality. Carlos Sainz warned of power drops that make straight-line speed unstable. Lewis Hamilton said rain will become very, very hard. Lance Stroll called it critical, fearing F1 could turn into a battery science project. Fred Vasseur summed it up. Right now, power counts, but next year, drivability becomes everything. That matters because the misconception about low-grip driving is backwards. Sliding doesn't always cost time, and instability doesn't always mean error. The advantage lives in the gray zone, where the tire neither fully grips nor fully slides. Verstappen trained for this from childhood. Freezing conditions, secret weight in the kart, rain when everyone else stayed dry. Red Bull built the car around his preference for a sharp, responsive front end. In 2026, with lighter cars, more torque, less downforce, and unpredictable power delivery, the skills that made Verstappen dominant in Brazil could become even more valuable. Alex Albon compared the new era to Formula E and predicted that only drivers with the mental capacity to manage these demands will thrive. So the real question isn't whether low-grip driving skills matter for the future of Formula One. The question is whether the rest of the grid can learn what Max Verstappen has known since he was 7 years old. Because the advantage isn't in perfect traction, it isn't in stability, It is in the narrow, uncomfortable zone where the tire is not fully gripping and not fully sliding. It is in the moment where most drivers panic, but Verstappen finds the edge and holds it. And that is why, even when the car looks worse, Max Verstappen looks faster